Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 93% rate. Trevor Zegras.
And they score on the lacrosse move!
Jake Gensel.
Gensel banks it towards the goal. He scores!
Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, he scores!
Stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
My goodness gracious me!
Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow at College Hockey.
Welcome to College Hockey Today. I am Jayson Hajdu with College Hockey Inc., joined as always by Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald. We're coming at you a day early. We're at least recording a day early with the Big Ten and Hockey East starting their playoff tournaments on Wednesday. We are recording on Tuesday afternoon. Lots of playoff talk here, lots of championship talk to get into. Before we do that, Schloss, a big announcement last week. We learned that there will be a 64th team coming to NCAA Division I men's hockey. Maryville University in St. Louis announced last Wednesday they will be adding a Division I men's program. What was your reaction to that news?
Well, my first reaction was now there are two teams in the St. Louis area.
Yeah.
I think if those teams are looking to get into conferences, I think it does help to have two geographically right there. The other thing it did is it sent me down the path of reading archives, remembering the old SLU Billikens hockey team. Remember when St. Louis University had a team in the 1970s? And I was just thinking of, man, you know what? Like, there's two teams in St. Louis, but there was one back in the 70s. And you know what? I'm going to go read a little bit about them. For some reason, in the short couple of years, I had forgotten that Bill Selman was the coach of the SLU Billikens. Selman was previously the coach at North Dakota. And then when North Dakota played in the regional in Maryland Heights a couple of years ago, you know who was in attendance? Bill Selman was there. So kind of cool to see him there. And now it feels like kind of a rebirth of the college scene in St. Louis right now. So, and then on top of all of that, this announcement coincides with the big tournament that was there for the Independents this weekend. I don't know. You were there this weekend. What were your takeaways, first of all, from the announcement that Maryville had?
Yeah, my plan was going to be there Thursday and Friday anyway. That's a drive for me from Kansas City to St. Louis, about 4 hours, 3.5 hours. So then when we learned that this announcement would happen, we added 2 days to the front of my trip. It was Sean Hogan and myself were there, our executive director, and everything, the announcement, all of the rollout was done in a first-class manner. Hats off to President Dan Shipp and athletic director Brittany Fennell, head coach John Hogan. There was clearly a lot of passion and professionalism in the building and in the room, which is what you want to see. John Hogan has been their coach for a number of years. They had two student athletes speak at the announcement as well, who both presented themselves very well, kind of reminding everyone what it's all about at the end of the day. And they have pretty aggressive ambitions. They'll play a hybrid schedule next season, combination Division I and club, and their intention is to play a full Division I schedule in 27-28. It's funny, I was talking to John Hogan, the coach, the next day, I think it was, at over at the the United Collegiate Hockey Cup. He said as soon as the announcement ended, he had at one point like 320 unread text messages on his phone. Players, coaches, colleagues. So the buzz was there, which is great to see. You're never quite sure what the reaction will be, but we left Maryville's campus feeling very good about the whole project. We actually did their feasibility study several years ago, and it was dormant for a little bit. And then about a year and a half ago, it really started gaining steam again. President Shipp is relatively new to Maryville, I want to say last February, but he was at Nebraska Omaha when they added hockey. So he's seen what it can do for a campus. He's seen what it can do for a community, which is great. And they already have, I want to say, 5 ACHA club level hockey programs at Maryville, 3 men's teams, 2 women's teams. So it's got a hockey foundation already. So there are a lot of things to like this. And like you said, the geography of it is very appealing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, yeah, put it on your calendar for 2 years. Another team on the way.
Okay, let's get into the current college hockey scene. I never did ask you, what did we learn this weekend? I have to ask you that off air.
Well, I'm going to go off the board here a little bit. What I learned in doing some reporting last week was that the wheels are in motion for college hockey to send another team back to the Spengler Cup already this next year. They have not finalized that yet. In talking to both Sean Hogan, I talked to him last week, and then I also talked to the general manager of the team that was over there, Steve Metcalf, the commissioner of Hockey East, and both of them were very optimistic that this was going to happen for next year. They said, we still need to get there. We haven't been formally invited yet, but I am very confident that this is in the works right now. So, man, that's pretty exciting, I think, for college hockey. That was such a great event. And I have some details about, some of the financial pieces. If you go to grandforksherald.com/UND hockey and find that story on that page somewhere, that there is a financial component that was very successful. I think there was a component to publicizing college hockey in Europe. Mm-hmm. I think there are a lot of things that help publicize college hockey, and you wonder if there is at least a little bit of a boost to it. You see all these Czech players that are committing to NCAA schools right now. Is that strictly because of the Spengler Cup? No. But do you think that caught the attention of some people when that all-star team beat an extra Liga team over there? Absolutely, it did. So, we're about to head into the playoffs here. But, looking ahead, I think that's, something that's pretty exciting for college hockey if they're able to get to the finish line and sign that off.
There were so many unknowns before this first year doing it. Will the team be competitive? How much will this cost? Will the juice be worth the squeeze? How are we going to pull this all together at such the holiday season? And all of these folks working on it have actual jobs that they have to take time from to pull this together, from coaching staff to Steve Metcalf to Sean and Chris with College Hockey Inc. And then the results on the ice. It's got to be very gratifying for guys like Steve and Sean. And I'll even go back to Mike Snee, who this was really his brainchild going back several years, the former executive director of College Hockey Inc. So to see the way it was received, to see how the team carried itself and competed on the ice, really gratifying.
And talking to the players who participated, they had just an incredible experience. Absolutely loved it.
I think that was the one thing we knew for sure we could count on, the life experience, student athlete experience.
And that was a home run. So
we got to get ourselves there one year, you and I.
Oh yeah. It needs to happen.
Okay, let's go through the leagues now. Like I said at the top of the show, the Big Ten and Hockey East will start on Wednesday, so no rest for the wicked. We're diving right in. All of the leagues are in full conference playoff swing right now. Let's start in Atlantic hockey, where I think on Friday, 3 of the 4 games went into overtime. There were bonkers box scores over the weekend in Atlantic hockey. But just to recap, the semifinals will be this weekend. These are best of 3 series. It's number 1 Bentley versus number 4 Holy Cross, number 2 Sacred Heart versus number 3 Robert Morris. I don't really know where to start. Let's get your initial thoughts from what we saw out of that league on the weekend.
Okay, I mean, and the number 1 place we're starting is Robert Morris. I mean,
you have to do some work to get past Air Force.
That is the first place. An unbelievable game 3 with the type of metrics that you just never see in college hockey in a 60-minute game. You look at the score and you see Robert Morris, which lost the first game in double overtime. Robert Morris comes back and wins the series 4-1, 5-2. Ho hum, right? No. So the shots on goal in game 3, 62 17 in favor of Air Force, the team that lost. The advanced metrics are even crazier. Air Force had 119 shot attempts. I mean, that you just never see in a 60-minute game. 119. Defenseman Chris Hedden, he attempted 27 shots. Robert Morris attempted 34. So Chris Hedden, the D-man, attempted almost as many as Robert Morris in that game. I think he had 12 on net. The other incredible stat, Robert Morris blocked 40 shots.
Yeah, the most of any team all season.
Charlie Schenkel in net with a sensational 60 of 62 save performance to help Robert Morris advance in a game where in the final 2 periods of that game, Robert Morris got outshot 51-9. I think I saw shot attempts in the third period. Shots on goal in the third were 24-3. Attempts were 52-3. And 2 of those 3 went in.
It's the ultimate rope-a-dope.
Yes, one was an empty netter at the very end. Just, absolutely crazy. Not to mention, while this all happened, Air Force had Robert Morris had a 5-minute major power play in this game too. So, just that's where you got to start. Just a crazy game that gets Robert Morris there. I think the next thing where we go to is just the way Mercyhurst battled.
Yep.
Just extending the career of Rick Gotkin. I was texting you on Friday. I was like, are we going to see the Mike Schaefer farewell run right now? Remember last year, Cornell went on. They knew it was Mike Schaefer's last year. They went on the run. They won ECAC, got into the tournament, upset Michigan State first round. Like, it was a crazy run for Cornell. We saw Mercyhurst beat Canisius last week to advance in a game where Mercyhurst was outshot 49-13. Charles Edward Gravel, one of his many sensational performances. And then having to go play on the road at league champion Bentley. And that game ends up going into 3 overtimes. Just a great battle again from Mercyhurst in that game, but Bentley ultimately prevails, and then Bentley ends up winning the game 2 handily. And so I guess a salute to Rick Gotkin for his incredible tenure at Mercyhurst. They were up against it this year. In addition to the team struggling, just the injuries that they had this year were, there's a time they had 12 guys out to injury this year. Even at the very end, they were playing 2 defensemen at forward because their forwards were so banged up. A huge challenge for Mercyhurst this season, but they battled to the end, with Rick Gotkin's final season.
38 years behind the Lakers bench for Rick Gotkin, 1,310 games.
Wow.
Incredible number. And also, let's give a salute to Charles Edward Gravel, his goaltender. In that triple overtime game lost to Bentley, he had 65 saves. The shot attempts in that one were 133-39. That's wild stuff. So now, as we just zoom out a little bit, so Holy Cross swept RIT. Jack Stockfish had the series winner in overtime in game 2. So it's Holy Cross at Bentley, and it's Robert Morris at Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart swept Niagara behind another good weekend from Ajit Gandara. 2 pretty compelling matchups here, the Atlantic Hockey semifinals.
Yeah, we have by the way, that Holy Cross, I think they had 2 back-to-back overtime wins. We have the top 4 seeds advancing. Yep. Certainly was not without significant adventure for all.
Not happening in a straight line, did it?
Yes, it was a crazy way to get there. It certainly helps to play at home. Bentley will be playing at home. Sacred Heart will be playing at home. Robert Morris certainly happy they have a few days off right now to recover from that series, I'm sure. Holy Cross is trying to, win the regional and or win the tournament and get to play home in the regional, as it is the host of the Worcester regional. So there's a carrot there, but yeah, we've got the teams that finished top four going at it, and there should be some pretty good series here, best of three.
In the Big Ten, which wrapped up its regular season last weekend, Michigan State got the points it needed to leapfrog idle Michigan and win their third straight Big Ten regular season title. So our Wednesday matchups are locked in. Single elimination, opening round on Wednesday, are as follows: Michigan against Notre Dame, Penn State against Minnesota, and Wisconsin against Ohio State. The Spartans have the bye into Saturday's semifinals. We touched on this a little bit last week, but a few wrinkles thrown into the Big Ten picture lately, with Notre Dame playing better, Wisconsin riding a little bit of unpredictability maybe injected into the scene here.
Yeah, first of all, Michigan State, wobbling a little bit, and you're wondering, can Minnesota knock off Michigan State and maybe somehow get Michigan its first Big Ten title? I think Michigan State said not happening Friday night. Just a dominant performance. Caden Lindstrom has scored in back-to-back games now. That was very interesting. He's obviously had his challenges this year, but boy, if they can get Caden Lindstrom starting to go here, that team becomes even more difficult to beat. This weekend, interesting matchups with Michigan and Notre Dame. I feel it's been kind of sneaky how Notre Dame has been a much different team for a little over a month now. Mm-hmm. And Notre Dame's playing a lot of close games. The offense is starting to come for Notre Dame. And can, in a one and done situation, can Notre Dame find a way past Michigan? Michigan's been great, really good this year, but that is, I would say a month and a half ago, I would think that's a fairly straightforward matchup. I don't know if that's as straightforward anymore, the way Notre Dame's playing. So
they've got a goalie that can steal you a game. They've got some high-end skilled players, the Danny Nelsons of the world, Paul Fisher. Evan Warner's had a fantastic season. So, don't sleep on Notre Dame right now. And I would say the same about Wisconsin. Had their wobbles earlier this winter, but they've righted the ship. And Minnesota has a win over Michigan and a tie with Michigan State in the last couple of weeks. They'll play a Penn State team. They got Charlie Serrato back.
Yeah, that's a huge get for Penn State. The one thing about the Nittany Lions have got to find a way to keep the puck out of their own net. I mean, right now they are scoring at a very impressive rate. There's no question. But if this team is going to make a run, that goals against needs to come down. Penn State's won 2 of its last 10 games. It's strictly because the Nittany Lions are giving up too many goals. It's been, partially a challenging schedule for Penn State during that time. But if you're Minnesota, the Gophers certainly have a chance in this one. There's no doubt about it that you look at the amount of goals that the Nittany Lions are giving up, and the Gophers have to be thinking there's an opportunity here. And these teams have not played for a long time either. The last time they played was right in January, coming back from break. So
that was probably one of their 2 best stretches all season too. But if you look at the goals against, you go back to the end of January and they've allowed 4 goals or more in all but 1 game in that time. Yeah,
that's not a recipe for success at the end of the year. Penn State can outscore its problems on some nights, though. Penn State's such a scary matchup because of that. There's so many offensive weapons, the way McKenna's playing, and you've got, DeMarsico and Fink and Weebush, and now with Serrato back in the lineup, that's a a game-changing addition. So this team certainly can score in waves, but it's really hard to win 4 consecutive games and win a national championship if you are giving up that many goals. So that's something the Nittany Lions will have to solve. A couple of years ago, remember, Denver did do that. A lot of times I would say it's really hard to flip a switch, but remember, Denver was scoring an incredible amount of goals, but it was giving up a lot. And then it got into the tournament and it won like 4 consecutive 2-1 games.
Yeah.
So Denver did flip that switch. And I'm not saying Penn State needs to win 2-1 games, but it certainly needs to follow Denver's cue and get that goals against down. And Minnesota right now is saying, here's an opportunity to score a little bit and maybe get into this thing.
The other quarterfinal matchup is Wisconsin against Ohio State. They've split their 4 meetings this season. It's a must-win for the Buckeyes. Wisconsin is safe-ish at 12 in the NPI.
I think so. There's a pretty big gap between 12 and 13. So I think Wisconsin's looking good. Very impressive weekend against Penn State, I thought, last weekend on the road. It was a tough January for Wisconsin. It feels like they're coming out of it now. They, splitting against Michigan, sweeping Penn State, and, it seems the Badgers are playing much better right now. And Ohio State's another team that's really been up and down this year. It feels like at times you don't know what to expect. Ohio State goes and gives up 16 goals to Penn State in a weekend, and it looks really ugly. And then you're thinking, oh boy, and now they've got to go play Michigan State the next weekend on the road. Well, then they go unbeaten against Michigan State on the road. So who knows what you're getting right now from Ohio State.
So those 3 quarterfinal matchups go Wednesday. All of the semifinals go on Saturday, where top seed Michigan State awaits its matchup. In the CCHA, all but one were sweeps. So the semifinals will be this Saturday, and those will be single elimination. We have number 1. It's another league where all 4 seeds advanced. We've got number 1 Minnesota State against number 4 Michigan Tech, number 2 St. Thomas against number 3 Augustana.
This is a massive weekend for the MPI, as much as, these teams are hovering right now. Augustana's at 13, St. Thomas is 15, Minnesota State is 17. If you look deeper, between 14 and 17, there's not much difference. Those are really tight together. We haven't seen tons of movement on the bubble until this weekend. It felt like everything got real close there. And Minnesota State is certainly playing to try to keep its season going against a very good Michigan Tech team. St. Thomas in Augustana is going to be a real big game, because right now Augie's 13, St. Thomas 15. If St. Thomas wins that, I think the Tommies will flip that. They will go ahead of Augustana. Augustana has a chance to still get in, but you're sitting there, bubble watching. So it almost feels like a NCAA tournament play-in type of game here, where the winner of this game is going to put itself in much better position. So some really big games in the CCHA, and these teams were so tight. All 4 of these teams went into the last day with the chance to win the league. So
yeah,
we're talking not much difference here.
Minnesota State was the only team that had to play that 3rd game on Sunday, and I'm guessing you weren't surprised. You teased last week that Ferris State was playing well. Don't sleep on them. And sure enough, they go to game 3, and then Alex Tracy just locks it down for his 13th career shutout in game 3. What did you make of last weekend's results across the board?
Yeah, I was not surprised to see Ferris push that one to 3 games. Certainly Minnesota State was the better team, but Ferris, Martin Lundberg has been giving Ferris some really good goaltending, and he did again this weekend. So, Ferris State able to march on. Minnesota State able to march on over Ferris. Bemidji State really gave Augie a push. That Saturday night game, the Beavers outshot Augie 43-19 in that game. And we saw prime Josh Kotai. That's why, you look at these teams and they're sitting as possible 4 seeds. The CCHA is a scary 4 seed because some of these teams defend really well and some of them have really elite goaltending. And Augustana has really elite goaltending. Minnesota State has really elite goaltending. And St. Thomas is just a good all-around team. And even if Michigan Tech makes it, that's a really good team as well. I think whoever makes it from that league is going to be a really difficult out in the first round. And even if they get outshot, Josh Kotai, and there's a reason why Kotai and Tracy were on that Spengler Cup team. They're difference makers.
Bowling Green had a really good season. They won 18 games. I almost feel like they ran into some bad scheduling luck in the playoffs. They were swept at Michigan Tech. The previous week, they won 2 games at Michigan Tech. And asking someone to win 4 times a week apart in Houghton is a tall order.
Yeah, it sure is. But yeah, I think if you're looking at the season as a whole, extremely successful season for Bowling Green, very encouraging season. This is not a team that's overly loaded with seniors. A lot of these guys are going to be back. Obviously, Dennis Williams did a very nice job recruiting and putting this team together. Some really good defenders on this team. Breck McKinley's getting a lot of honors right now within the CCHA and getting recognized for his great season. But obviously a great season for Bowling Green, despite not getting out of the first round. And I think the fans there are certainly excited where this team could be headed here in the near future.
For sure. Let's talk ECAC, where Clarkson, Colgate, Harvard, and Union all advanced out of the first round. So these are the quarterfinal matchups for this weekend. These are best of 3 series. Quinnipiac versus Clarkson, Dartmouth versus Colgate, Cornell against Harvard, which should be a great one, and Princeton versus Union. We could see a lot of offense in that one too. What's your take on this bracket?
Yeah, I think Princeton Union is going to be an interesting matchup. Union played, absolutely hammered Brown and on Saturday night and looked really good. The power play that Union can put out there is pretty impressive. So Princeton might not want to take too many penalties this weekend. I just don't know what to think about that one. That's the one where you look at that one and it looks like a really, really good matchup. The others, I think the top seeds are pretty big favorites. As much as I've liked a lot of players on Harvard, like Cornell's really had a great year. Mm-hmm. Good goaltending. They've got their centermen are excellent, and when you can start with great centers and the goaltending that Alexis Cornway has given them, that's a pretty good spot. Ryan Walsh, Jonathan Castagna, Charlie Major, like up the middle, that's really, really good. And Xavier Veo's had such a great freshman year. You mix him in with some veterans like Hoyt Stanley and George Figueres, and it's just a really strong all-around team. I think it's a pretty classic Cornell team. It's a new coach there, same old Cornell. So I think that should be one.
Definitely carried on that Mike Schaefer mold. I'm honestly curious to see what Clarkson as the 8th seed can bring against Quinnipiac. They've played in a lot of 1-goal games going back a month plus. They won 5 of their last 6. The one loss was a 2-1 road loss to Cornell. There's an 8-7. That 8-7 overtime win over Union started this run, and they squeaked past RPI 2-1 last weekend. So we'll see what they can pose against Quinnipiac.
Yeah, Shane Soderwall's played pretty well in that for Clarkson.
He's great, yeah.
So that has been a big help as of late. Ryan Botterill is a really, really good player. He's one of those guys that can certainly scare opponents. He's having a great senior year this year, 36 points, and he's. It feels like sometimes points can come in bunches with him, and so we'll see if it's a tall task going to PIAC, but they have been promising as of late.
Hockey East will begin its opening round on Wednesday. These are basically must-win games in terms of the national tournament for these teams. But Vermont at BU, New Hampshire at Northeastern, UMass Lowell at Merrimack. We also have a quarterfinal matchup that is set Maine at Boston College on Friday. The quarterfinals come Saturday. Your thoughts on Hockey East?
Yeah, we'll see that Vermont BU matchup. There have been some rumblings that Vermont may have some injuries on D. I've been trying to find some reporting on it. Haven't found anything yet, but watch the line chart when that comes out on Wednesday, because that would be very impactful. Also watch BU's line chart. There has been some reporting that they're going to shuffle their lines. Not that that's anything new for this season. They've been trying to find it all year. It has felt like Hockey East has been pretty close all year. There hasn't been tons of separation. We've seen a lot of teams beat a lot of teams. Last Saturday night, Maine just needed to beat Vermont in that game to secure the bye. BU is 1 point back. Well, Vermont, which was 11th, ends up knocking off Maine. BU is playing 10th place Lowell, and 10th place Lowell beats BU, so Maine gets the bye anyway. But I thought that was indicative of how the year's gone in Hockey East. You just are not sure exactly what will transpire, but and that's probably part of why these teams want to find a way to get through, because just who knows? It's not like if one of these teams that wins Wednesday goes into the games on Saturday, it's not like it's it's a challenge, but it's not like they can't do it. So the other big story to me is just the surge of UMass, and Michael Hrabel's playing at a Mike Richter level in net right now. He's a big guy. He's high profile, major prospect, playing like one. And UMass was completely out of the NCAA tournament picture. And now UMass is actually in the tournament if it were to start today. So that's been one of the big stories of the second half. Providence, obviously, is a great second half, and we've talked about that. But UMass has come kind of out of nowhere here with this incredible run by Michael Hrabel and net to get into a spot where they would be in the tournament. A second place finish for UMass in the league.
So Providence right now is 5th in the MPI, so they're more or less a safe bet to be a 2 seed at this point. And then you have UMass next at 14. Everyone else is 16 or lower. Who still has a realistic chance here? It's hard to predict. You just need to keep winning. But what's your take on this bubble mess for Hockey East?
Well, I guess the other big story is that BC. BC looked so good at the start of the second half, and just kind of out of nowhere, just dropped 4 games in a row. It was hard to envision BC getting swept by BU, and it happened. BC lost 2 more. And now all of a sudden BC can get into the tournament. But it's a long shot at this point now. It's maybe long shot's a bad language. BC needs help. It's an uphill climb. UConn has a shot too. Those games are just huge for UConn and BC to try to find a way to win. And those 3 teams, BC, UConn, and UMass are going to be very closely watching the CCHA, and CCHA fans are going to very closely be watching Hockey East, because that is the bubble right now. Everyone else in Hockey East needs to win the tournament. There are avenues for BC, UConn, and UMass to join Providence, which is 100% in the tournament. And it'll be great action in Hockey East.
In the NCHC, no sweeps. North Dakota swept. All sweeps. Minnesota Duluth swept St. Cloud State. Denver swept Miami. It's an 11-game unbeaten streak for the Pios. And Western Michigan swept Colorado College. Let's start with the series you covered. UND swept Omaha. I thought a really good weekend for Max Swanson.
Yeah, he's kind of quietly. He does it in a quiet way. He's more of a guy that makes a ton of really small, good passing plays and really smart puck plays throughout a game. And you don't necessarily notice him. He's not like a Jackson Blake that jumps off the page and everyone in the arena he stands out to. He's more of a quiet guy, but he has started to shoot the puck a lot more. He's kind of a pass first guy. He had 2 goals as a freshman. He's up to 11 this year. His shot is really pretty good, and he's starting to use it a little more. I think he's starting to figure out that is a weapon for him. And so he had a big weekend. North Dakota, Friday night, 2 of the top 3 goal scorers out of the lineup due to illness, and they still keep going. That's kind of been a team that's really deep and has been able to overcome when they've had injuries or illnesses, as in the case of last weekend. Jack Kernan, who practiced all week as 4th-line center, goes up to 2nd-line wing and has a 3-point night. That's just kind of the way this team has been this year. So,
and they were the number 1 overall seed for about 5 minutes there this weekend too.
Yeah, and you want to know how close those top 3 seeds are? Robert Morris beating Air Force flipped Michigan and North Dakota. That is how tight those teams are. So it's going to come down to the wire, and that is going to be a second battle that is brewing, in addition to who is going to be in the tournament.
So North Dakota will host Minnesota Duluth in the semifinals on Saturday. New format this year in the NCHC, staying on campus sites all the way through. So North Dakota hosts that single game against the Bulldogs. Sam Plant, St. Cloud State was in position to make this a very different series. They had a lead both nights inside the final half minute. Both nights, Sam Plant scores the extra attacker tying goal. Both nights, Sam Plant scores the overtime winner.
Yeah, that's incredible. And for much of this season, it's been Max Plant. Max has been the driver on that line. He's been the best player on that line. The last month, Zam has quietly been the guy, actually. He's outscored Max in the last month and a half. He's vastly outscored him in goals, which maybe isn't a huge surprise. Zam's more of a goal scorer. But he's just playing at an extremely high level right now. And that top line is really good. Minnesota Duluth's power play, number 2 in the nation. Minnesota Duluth's penalty kill, number 2 in the nation. This is a team you do not want to get in a special teams battle with. They obviously, as you mentioned, they scored 2 6-on-5 goals last week. And so that's not power play, but I mean, it's kind of a power play type scenario. This team, when the Plants in Shagabe have time and space, they are going to eat you up. And so for North Dakota this weekend, for whoever plays the Bulldogs in the NCAA tournament, the task is trying to find a way to eliminate that time and space, and it's not easy. So special teams are going to be key playing Minnesota Duluth, because when you have the second best power play, second best penalty kill, That'll win you a lot of games.
Denver, Western Michigan is the other semifinal matchup on Saturday. As I said, Denver swept Miami. They've won 7 straight. Western Michigan swept Colorado College. Pretty close series both nights. Tough way to see Caden Mberico presumably going out as a senior, getting hurt on Friday night.
Yes, what did he set the record for most starts? And then he gets hurt. So it's such a great career for Caden Mberico. We also saw Simon Latkozy play his last game. Both those guys, incredible careers. Denver and Western, these two teams played for the NCHC title last season. They played in the NCAA Frozen Four last season. Early this year, Denver went to Kalamazoo and took 2 games in Lawson Ice Arena. Western Michigan went back to Magnus and took 2 games in Magnus. So this is kind of a budding rivalry of sorts, with these teams playing in such big games head-to-head against each other. Should be a good weekend. Denver's on an 11-game unbeaten streak. This started when Quentin Miller, who was fantastic for Denver, all of a sudden gets hurt, and they have to bring in Johnny Hicks, who had not played. And Johnny Hicks has played 11 games, and he has not lost yet. So what a performance by Johnny Hicks to be able to come in and do that. David Carl said today on the conference call that Quentin Miller is practicing again, that he's got a lower body injury, and it's just hard to tell exactly when he's going to be ready to be to play in a big game, because he said, when you're a goalie, your lower body better be 100% before you get thrown in there. And hey, if he's healthy, who knows if they even put him in the way Johnny Hicks is going right now. So quite a storyline for Johnny Hicks in Denver.
Johnny Hicks, all 157 pounds of him, has a 960 save percentage through 15 games.
Yeah, and the Denver goalies both played great this year. They didn't get on the all-conference teams, presumably because, Quentin Miller was on track to, then he got hurt, and then Johnny Hicks just didn't have enough games to get recognized. But both those guys have had phenomenal years. And by the way, the other goalie on the other side is Hampton Slakinski, who is playing at an incredible level in the second half of the year. Should be a great game in Denver. As you said, new format, all at home sites. That one makes me especially excited to be at a home site, because Denver and Western Michigan playing in St. Paul, Minnesota does not lend to a great environment. I think we are going to see a great one in Magnus on Saturday night.
2 must-see matchups in the NCHC on Saturday. Let's finish up with the independents, and congratulations to the Alaska Nanooks. They win the inaugural United Collegiate Hockey Cup that was hosted by Lindenwood. As we said earlier, I was there Thursday and Friday, got to watch 4 games, chat with some coaches. Honestly, really entertaining hockey. My takeaway was how much this event mattered to the coaches and players. We said last week it gives them a trophy to play for, a tournament environment to experience, and that manifested not only in my conversations with coaches, press conference comments by players, but the play on the ice was physical. It was snarly. Temperatures were high all weekend on the ice, and really entertained. There were overtime winners. There was a game that was won on a breakaway with 8 seconds left. Ultimately, Alaska beats Lindenwood 4-3 in overtime on Saturday. Chase Defoe, the overtime winner. Lassie Letty, the goalie for Alaska, the tournament MVP. I would think top to bottom, this tournament was a success for what it was designed to be.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you, what was the best game of the tournament? Because you have a lot of candidates right there. I mean, every time I was looking at the box scores, I was thinking, oh man, Jayson is watching some absolutely insane games right now.
Who was I texting? I don't remember. I texted you or someone else Thursday, Lindenwood versus Long Island. was honestly as entertaining as any game I'd seen all year. I think there were 90 shots on goal. I don't know how many shot attempts. I think it was a 5-4 final. That's the game.
Yeah.
Anselmo Rego scored on a breakaway with 8.8 seconds left to give Lindenwood the win. It was really fun hockey. It was just great sight lines too. That was my first trip to Centene.
For sure.
And really good sight lines. You hear and feel everything going on the ice there.
Yeah, that game had 89 shots on goal.
There you go.
89.
Every scrum had every post whistle. There was a scrum every whistle. Like the guys were grouchy. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, and it was back and forth. Lindenwood goes up 1-0. Long Island comes and takes the lead 2-1. Lindenwood scores 3 straight. Long Island comes back with back-to-back goals, and as you said, Lindenwood wins it with 8 seconds to go. One of the crazier games you will see.
Lindenwood's top line of Olivier Oud and Gio Murnau, Charles Savoy, very, very impressive. Sir Dackney for Long Island had a good tournament. Obviously, Letty for Alaska, Defoe for Alaska. So I hope it was a good experience for them. Kudos to Lindenwood, Will, and the Sports Info staff there. I know it's a grind putting on a multi-day tournament as a host, so hats off to them as well. Hats off to everyone involved. Great concept, great execution. Okay, before we let you go, what are you working on ahead of your big matchup Saturday?
Yeah, I'm working on all sorts of different previews for this weekend. It's kind of the fun time of year where you can dive into games. I'm spending a lot of time watching these all conference teams come out from all the different leagues. That's kind of fun to see who gets the votes and the honors. So those are a couple of the things I'm working on. And honestly, I'm really, as someone who doesn't cover a game till Saturday, I can't wait to sit and watch all the games Wednesday. That's going to be fun. Hope to see some great atmospheres around the country. I have not yet decided which game I'm going to dial in on the most, but I'll probably have 2 screens going Wednesday night. It's going to be a fun night.
I had that Centene. I had obviously the live game in front of me. I had a game on ESPN on my laptop, and I had the NCHC quad box happening on my tablet. Yeah, it was a good night. It's the best time of year, no question. Okay, Schloss, thanks for joining us. Enjoy that matchup on Saturday and everything else between now and next week's episode, and we'll holler at you next week.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the hockey.